Okay, 7 o'clock? Okay. Yeah. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lynn, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Grover?
Here.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Here.
Mrs. Vanderwater?
Here.
Mr. Halchanski?
Here.
Mrs. Lesniak?
She's excused.
Tucker?
Here.
Ms. Zuber?
Here. Town Attorney Nadine Bell is excused for this evening as well. Okay, first, can I get a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from February 15th, please?
I'll move.
Second.
Any questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Lynn, citizens' comments?
Andy?
Andy, can you come up to the microphone, please?
Introduce yourself, please.
Give us all the vitals.
Height and weight.
This is on.
It sounds like you're on.
I'm not going to sweat it. Andrew Bowes, 116 Hunter Drive. I attended Mr. Magnarelli's town hall at Lincoln School, and it was a nice turnout. Lots of people had some very interesting things to talk about. Specifically, I talked with him relative to this town. I had some other interesting conversations on statewide issues, specifically the governor's mandates about gas stoves and whatnot. But specifically, I wanted to address community development funds. I suggested that to Mr. Magnarelli that to make the governor's mandate for community development housing, specifically as we were just discussing here during the work session, that they tie community development funds to be provided directly to the town now as part of the mandate. If the governor wants to push this stuff on the towns need some help to get better designed projects and figure out ways to make it attractive to appropriate developers. Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry who has some land wants to build something on because there's a big push. Let's see what I can do. Let's make areas that are appropriate, like we were discussing about density. Let's determine where they're going to be and make a plan. So I encouraged him to address that in the town and also provide funds to the town for the inspectors and code officers, because if there's going to be all of a sudden a giant housing boom, our guys are going to be doing more work. And, there's going to be a lot of different permits coming in. They all have to be checked, gone over, and different things. And look at some of the recent developments and how much time we've spent on some individual developments that are in the town at this point, and think about where we could be in the future at that time and manpower. So I encouraged him to throw some money at the towns, because it's a statewide problem. So the towns are being burdened by the governor's mandate. Our tax dollars, as we are here, standing here, my tax dollars are helping figure out for all these developers what to do, So encouraged on that. So I guess what I'd like the town to do is perhaps specifically request development funds from the state to be put into the 23 budget for design to be determined by you guys. Put something in the budget for 23, because that budget hasn't been decided yet.
Right.
So if we get into 23's budget, maybe we can get some assistance now. He seemed very receptive to trying to figure out how to help the towns figure out to do better development. And then as part of any funds, let's stick with that one. Design in 23 with a project for 24. Both of them TBD, but let's ask for the money and see what we can do with it, because there's plenty of things. I mean, we got some sidewalks that end in trees and telephone poles, for crying out loud. I don't want to throw stones, but let's prevent that. So maybe some development funds can help that as we go forward, because we're talking about density of housing, where it should go. Behind the tops, the cornfield there is a prime location. So is the Kriegel property. There's a lot of different things that we want to make palatable to the neighbors that have to accept these projects if they get shoved down by the state if we don't meet their deadline for those 66 units. So if sidewalks are already there, what would the community adjacent to these neighborhoods like to see? All right? You think about the fact where our town park is. Our town park's way over there. We're putting people over here. Where's the closest town park? There isn't. I understand the overhead and everything else to a new park, et cetera, but these kids are going to need something to do or they're just going to get into trouble. And you can't tell me there aren't going to be any kids in any of these new developments, contrary to what's over at Tri-County and how many people go to school and things like that. There will be children. So you got to figure out a place to do that. And I think the town, if it is forward-looking, has an opportunity to take advantage of the situation because the governor really wants this mandate, wants these things to happen. So now's the time to ask for the money. Maybe we ask at the county level as well, because Ryan wants walkable communities, et cetera, et cetera. So I encourage the board to consider that.
Andy, let me just interrupt for a second. The town is in the process of trying to move forward with a comprehensive plan, and we have asked the state for money for that grant. We got turned down.
Yeah,
However,
that's
we
why I
are,
brought that up.
yeah, and we have had talks with the county to help fund that project so that we can get planning,
Yeah.
going on that.
Ask the state again and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because he was very supportive of the concept
Yeah.
of helping out more.
Well, I would remind you that the community development money is federal money that goes to the county, and they disperse it.
Okay.
So it's outside the state.
Well, that's why I was attaching a different funding source to the state mandate from the governor.
They would be a first.
Hey, it's the first time she shoved housing down our throats, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The state doesn't typically pay for their mandates. They don't.
All right, it's a conversation as well, but it
Yeah.
can't hurt
It's a
because
great idea.
you never know if it might get attached. Because there's a lot of wishful thinking from the governor on what to happen, and maybe this is a way to grease the skids a little bit. As far as community development monies, I think that it would be wise for the town to also consider invasive species, because you've got Phragmites, which are all over the place. They're an invasive species that are easily eradicated. Honeywell's done a nice job. They're very terrible for the environment, and I guess they're on town property somewhere. We obviously are all aware of the water chestnuts. A lot has been said by others about the quality of the work that was done this past season with water chestnuts and people's concerns. I encourage the town, I know the county is giving the town, or the state's giving the county the money to do the work. It's really a state problem. It's not a county problem.
Well-
I think the state should be managing it and taking the county out of it, personally speaking. It's a statewide issue.
Correct. The state gave the county money in the
Yes.
22-23 budget. I did meet with Senator May a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned that since she represents not only Van Buren and parts of Cayuga County, water chestnuts are a big concern. In my request for funding, I said, this is what my town needs. Here's what the state also needs to do
Okay,
to handle
great.
the water chestnuts. Whether we get the money, any of those,
Got it?
if you don't ask, you don't get it.
And I want us to add one more invasive species to that concern, Japanese knotweed. It looks like bamboo. It has nice heart-shaped leaves. It has some flowers on it. It is so bad that your property in the United Kingdom, you can't sell your property. You're banned from selling that property. That's how bad they consider it an invasive species. And it's, you go down along the Delaware, it is terrible. It's cut the river off from access. It makes these huge, dense forests. It's difficult to eradicate, and I encourage the town to look for funds from the state to start looking at that and finding where these clumps and patches are. We've got some stuff in the city of Syracuse. It's going to be in Onondaga Lake. It's already here and there. You got to get wild in small patches. There are areas up in the Adirondacks. They just gave up on whole fields of it because they can't get rid of them. They've gotten too out of control. So I encourage the town to look at that, especially if it's on town property, because it's a tough thing to deal with.
Sorry, Andy, it's Japanese knotweed?
Japanese knotweed.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Was actually found on a volcano in Japan, way back when Japan opened up to the west. A botanist from the United Kingdom thought it was a great plant. Yeah, tough as heck, grows everywhere. He thought it was pretty. It made such nice clumps until it turned into massive fields. The railroads started spreading along the edges of the railroads for erosion control. Bad idea because it got everywhere and it doesn't even work that well.
It's ruined a lot of grazing land out west, too.
Yes. So especially if it's on town property, you want to get it under control. And, maybe there's something we can do as a community, but I think addressing the invasives, particularly the water chestnuts, just because that's just up the river from me. And, I'm sure that the Crego development guy probably has some thoughts on that matter about what we're doing. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, moving on to number 1. Get a motion to update the committee assignments. Bob Grover, the new counselor, will take the place of Ron Dzinski on the Personnel, Parks and Rec, Highway, and Erie Canal committees. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments, questions?
Bob, you good with that?
I'm good with that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Second, to get a motion to update the chair positions. Parks and Rec, I will take over. Erie Canal goes to Jenny Sullivan. Highway goes to Wendy Vanderwater. Can I get a motion to that, please?
I'll make that one.
Second. I'll move it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. At some point, we will roll the Erie Canal into the parks, so. Number 3, you all have the memo from Heidi asking for approval of hiring 3 park attendants. Richard Howard at $17.25 an hour, he's returning. Sarah Friedenberg and Lynn Pinnard at $17 an hour. Lynn will be a substitute. Can I get a motion to that?
Make a motion.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Number 4, Dan Barnaba is...
You want to go to 5 first and get that done?
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I penciled in the number 5. I'd like to get a motion to declare the 2007 Codes Department HP DeskJet printer as surplus.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Dan, Dan Barnaba is here to talk to the board about a potential zone change. Yeah. That's,
You
how
can
about
go
in the middle? Yeah.
Not much to look at, but I have spare maps if somebody wants a map.
Okay.
My name is Dana Barnaca with Eldon Homes.
Microphone, please.
Do I have to go there?
Well, you can take it off,
Right, yeah.
and
So
then,
to speak pretty loud.
well,
What?
My name is Dan Barnaca with Eldon Homes, E-L-D-A-N.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. It's my parents, Ellie and Dan. They started the business in 77.
Okay.
I was in front of this board over a period of several years, as far back as either '03 or '04. Some of you were involved in either planning or at town level. I see some new faces though, and worked with your town administrators on our projects. And I've always had my attention pointed to other properties around the Harbor Heights development. We bought what was a field or part quarry of Harbor Heights, and we developed it into about 170 to 180 home sites. And had ups and downs. The project worked very well around '08 or '09. Things stalled a little bit with the economy. That happened just about everywhere. And we had our sights on pieces of property around that site that the same company owned, and now we have those pieces under contract pending our decision on how feasible a development project is. So I'm going to acquaint you with the two pieces, familiarize you with what they're currently zoned and what we would like to see happen. And rather than go through too much of the process without knowing how it's going to turn out, I'd like to get a little candid feedback on your thoughts on the project. So this piece, I believe it's maybe about 8 acres, and it's, some of you are probably very familiar with this piece.
This end here, we all live in Harbor Heights, so,
Okay, so Comain Road,
yep.
Downer Street, and then if you work your way up a little bit, South Gate, is that the name of it? And as this piece was consumed, a builder, Dave Killian, broke off some of the property and developed 3 or 4 homes on Downer Street that are on septic systems. And obviously the state wouldn't want to see too many driveways right out on Downer Street. So the idea of continuing to build 1-acre lots isn't very feasible. So what I'm going to show you is a quick sketch that's very lightly drawn. Hopefully you can make it out. Where basically there's just one road in from Downer and one road out on Comain, keeping in mind that we would pick a location on Downer where the sight line is good for traffic, and coming in off of Comain a healthy distance from the corner. The sanitary sewer system is located literally right on Comain Road, so it's very easy to tie into. Water is easily accessible. I'm not completely familiar with the topography yet, and I do think there is a break in the property where there's maybe an overhead transmission line that goes through the parcel. This piece is currently zoned R40, which is typically a holding pattern or a holding zoning for your vacant properties. It wouldn't be feasible to develop it with the zoning as is. What I've sketched is what is R15, which would be the next zoning classification down. And it yields about 28 home sites, approximately 90 feet in width, and varying between 150 and 210 feet deep. With R15, the lots would have to be at least 15,000 square feet. What I've learned is that you have an R10 zoning on your books, albeit it's not readily available for new projects. I think it's sort of a classification on your books that you have because you do have parcels in the community that are zoned R10 now. And one of the themes that I'd like to get into, and you can get my feedback, I'll get your feedback, is just this idea that perhaps the development that's going to occur in the course of the next 10 to 20 years should have a little bit more thought as far as density is concerned. I can tell you that in my land development career, the arc of our projects goes something like this. We buy a piece of property, we figure out how many home sites we think we can get on the property, we go to the town, we request a certain number of home sites, and we want this many, and the people in the audience want this many, and we end up with something like this. And now, for the first time, at least the cooperation we see from the state, from the county, is, gee, we'd like this many home sites. Hey, do you think you can create more? Or we have no problem giving you that many home sites. And I never quite understood, from the municipality's point of view, what's the problem with density? I can tell you I've developed 20 to 30 projects in my career. Every single one I drive by, I know exactly how many houses are in the neighborhood. There's now one town official or one resident that sat in the audience opposing any of my projects that can tell me exactly how many houses are in the neighborhood. It's a non-factor. Once you've decided it's a housing development, what difference does it make if there's 28 or 32? To us, it makes a very big difference. You still have a street to plow. You still have a bus that has to go down there. You still have to deliver mail. The level of services are about the same, although you may have some more people in school. But the 4 extra lots to a developer are extremely significant. It's 4 more houses we can build. We can spread the cost of the project over 4 more home sites. It's 4 more lots we can sell. It's much more profitable. It's exponentially more profitable each time we can add a building lot. And in this particular case, My desire would be to get from R15 to R10, or even better. Now, I'm mindful of the fact that we're proposing half the housing back up to a very busy road. And that was probably one of the things that discouraged us from pursuing the property right away, which was how many people are really going to desire to live on this busy road. And we've gotten to the point where we think it's a risk we're willing to take, although it'll be tempered. Getting the approval is step one. When we start to put money in the ground and develop it, it will really be determined by when we see the market conditions get to the point where we can sell. I can give you an example of two other projects, one that I've built, developed, and very successfully sold. It's in the town of Clay. It's called the Hamlet. It's located in the back of the Fairway East subdivision. There was a battle with the town of Clay over the number of lots that we were going to get. There was about 37 home sites that we ended up with after negotiating for a couple of years. The home sites were 56 feet wide by about 130 feet deep. So they ended up being 7,500 square foot lots. And we built homes that were 42 feet wide on those home sites. So you have about 7 feet of side yard and about 14 feet between houses. I can tell you it was a tremendous success. If you drove through it, I think that you'd be hopefully in favor of something that looks like that in your town. Homes are very colorful. They have sort of an arts and craft look to them. They didn't sell quite as fast as we would have liked because the project came on around 2009, 2010, and we were dealing with a challenging economy. But I'm surprised if they last 2 days on the resale market right now. And houses that we sold for under $200,000 to $220,000, several of which probably resell now for over $300,000. And they're not big. They're 1,500 square feet to about 2,000 square feet. And they're a mix of two-story homes with all bedrooms up, master bedrooms on the first floor, and ranches. It's a full-service community, lawn care and snow removal, so there's an HOA there, so we get some residents that like to have the services included in the living in the neighborhood. Along with this project, we're pursuing a project in the town of Salina. The town of Salina has on their books an R3 zoning, very old zoning that they don't use very often. The piece that we are under contract to buy has that zoning classification. And the original owner of the property has tried for 10 years to try to get apartments approved. And they've gotten a lot of backlash from residents who would rather not see any apartments whatsoever. So anything that's not apartments, they're welcoming with open arms. They're saying, come in, tell us what you want. About the same size in acreage, a little bit more restricted as far as the shape. And we're going to get about 38 to 40 homes. The home sites will be 50 feet wide by 100 feet deep. These are 5,000 square foot home sites. And it's about the smallest home site we'll ever build on. The homes will range in width between 30 to 42 to 44 feet. When I say that home lots are 50 feet wide, we average it, so we modulate them. There'll be 44s, 48s, 50s, 52s, 54s. So when you drive down the street, they're not all the same shape and size, and we can modulate the widths of the houses, the heights of the houses. So when you go down the street, it's not obvious that they all look like they're, cut the same.
So what are you looking to change here? You're designing R15, you said R10, so what are you?
My question is, what's your appetite or density or lot size? I know what the town's appetite was 15 years ago when I was here with Harbor Heights, or 20 years ago, and it was a challenge to get to R15. As a matter of fact, we really didn't. We got PUD approved. And what we did is we created some unique shaped lots in Harbor Heights. And the PUDs have their own challenges. They're tough to amend or change if you want to change them up. I can live with a straight zoning classification. R10 would probably be the best to start because it's on your books. But if you said you would endeavor to do something even smaller, we'd be interested.
So there's 28 houses there now?
The way we've sketched that out, it looks like there's about 28 home sites. That's at R15. Going from R15 to R10 isn't quite as big a jump as you think, even though you think you'd get 33% more homes. The width, the R15 starts at 90 feet wide, the R10 goes to 80 feet wide. So basically, on a run of 8 lots, we would only pick up 1 lot. So if this went to R10, from R15 to R10, we'd probably only gain 2 to 4 home sites. It's not that many more. It's that width. So if you were inclined to go to R10, we would decide, we would try to make a decision, is 32 enough, or is 30 enough to proceed, or would we like to see what it looks like if you were willing to go with something more dense?
So I'll give you my 2 cents. You probably know that we already have a project in the works on Kriego Farm, and they're looking at bringing in 100 homes. That includes some like villa-type houses, single-family homes, and apartments. I think I can speak for everyone, are not in favor of all of the apartments that they're presenting. You don't have apartments, but this one's already in the works. So to come off of a project of 100 homes to even more in a quarter mile of the area scares me as far as density in our town. I think that a lot of people who live in Harbor Heights had a lot of issues with the development. I will say that I think everything went well. I think people are very happy with everything at the outcome of that development. I think this will really trigger a lot of people because it's like you're taking up every little bit of space, green space in that area. I think it might be too dense.
Which zone? R40, R15, R10?
I think the whole project is a little too dense for that area.
My experience has been the closer to the busy road, the more dense it needs to be to sell houses, and it gets less dense as you go in. So it's someday going to be sold for something.
Sure.
This town's going to decide whether you want industrial there, commercial there, residential, high-density residential, low-density residential. It's currently R40. Somebody could work their butt off and figure out a way to build 4 or 5 homes, but
Well, I think
guess what I'm trying to figure out is, let me take a step back. Our trade association, the Home Builders Association, is trying to figure out which towns are willing to embrace development and density. Those that are willing to embrace development and density are going to get business. Those that aren't, we're just going to go build someplace else.
Well,
If you
I-
told me there's no zone change that's going to go up here, R40, we rip up the contract, we tell the landowner, not interested, we're going to go do something else. I'm under the impression that with Micron hopefully coming in and having the impact it's going to, towns are going to hopefully generate interest in people moving to that town. Van Buren is desirable because of the school district, the proximity to conveniences. And why not put the density where you already have a lot of infrastructure in place, as opposed to going out someplace where you don't have the sewers, you don't have the water, and you don't have the convenience of servicing it immediately. Now, I'll speak very candidly about the other project. They will build as many villas as you would like them to build, so long as they get the multifamily housing. If they didn't have the multifamily housing, they'd be done.
I understand.
I'm not worried about them as a competitor, because they'll do the multifamily housing first, and then they'll do the villas as an afterthought.
Sure.
Right.
We're very aware of that.
That's not how we do business.
And the other thing that I just want to tie into that, to my comment is, along with what Mary Frances prefaced earlier, that we are working on a comprehensive land use plan. Ours is 20 years old. It needs to be updated. We need to have thoughtful discussions as a board, what we want to see here in the town of Van Buren. So when you ask that question, do we want high density, low density? We need to have that question answered among ourselves when we're doing that plan. If we had been approved for the funds for that, we would have started that conversation. I would say that we're not ready to answer any of those questions or make affirmative decisions what type of town we want to be until we start that comprehensive land use plan.
From my perspective, I think the town would welcome some development as far as density. I would not be in favor personally of going to an R10. We have an area in town where there is an R10, the Seneca Knolls, and we've just found that there are issues down there with the size of those lots. And at this point, I would consider an R15, but I wouldn't go anything probably lower than an R15. I might consider a PUD, but I think the planning board, who will make a recommendation back to this board, I don't know if they would look at an R15 or a PUD, but I would not be in favor of an R10 and certainly not below an R10.
I grew up in Baldwinsville, just like most of you. The problem in Seneca Knolls has nothing to do with the size of the lots. It has to do with the age of the properties and the way they've been upkept.
No, I will disagree with you.
We're building $400,000 homes.
I
on small
understand.
lots, people take care of them.
Yeah, I
Did it very
understand.
successfully in Radisson for the last 15 years. We've got a couple hundred houses there with really small lots in Radisson. And this year's Parade of Homes will be in Radisson. We're the host for the show. There'll be 6 homes on lots smaller than all of these. One of the home builders is signing a contract in River Grove for $855,000. So in my experience, is what really promotes the neighborhood and how well kept it is how much money people are investing in the property. They put a lot of money into it, they take care of it.
Well, there are a lot of people in Seneca Knolls that are renovating those homes down there. So, I think Seneca Knolls is going through a renovation and resurgence. But from a size of a lot, I am not in favor of a 10,000 lot. I would consider, and this is strictly my opinion, it'll come from the planning board, a PUD, maybe 12,000, something along that line, varied, but I would not be in favor of going down to a 10.
So I can offer you a couple of pieces of advice on community land plan. One is anything that the government comes up with isn't going to fly if you don't have market input. And by market input, getting feedback from developers or builders. Because I'm not interested in the government designing the community and saying, here, come and buy this, build here. We put our money into these projects. We are the ones that take the risk. There's not much risk to take putting a land plan together other than whether somebody comes along and decides to give it a try. I understand it's very challenging to get a zone change when you're getting people in the audience that are opposed to it. So what we're suggesting as a trade association is break your map out and identify where you'd like certain density to be and create a community overlay map where you're saying, okay, here's all the parcels that could be developed. This is the type of zoning that we see on those parcels, and then do a series of public hearings and get all the audience out there and get all the objections to getting your map approved. Now, you're not giving a zone change, but once the map is approved, you're sending a message to developers. If you go by this piece, we're very likely to give you the zoning that's identified on the map. And to the people that come into the audience and then object, say, hey, we published this map, we had all these hearings, and we're just putting our plan into place.
Well,
If you do it on a case-by-case basis, you're going to be overwhelmed by all the NIMBYs that don't want it in their backyard.
But to Wendy's point, we are in the process, we'll begin that process between the planning board and the town board of coming up with that comprehensive plan. So at this point, where you're saying you don't want government to do that, that is what the role of the town is, to figure out where development can take place.
I'm just saying do it with market input.
Well, it would have to have public input in it, so.
I mean
Yeah.
market, like developer input,
Yeah.
builder input, like, okay, these are the lots that we can build on. The other piece associated with this community or this area of town is this parcel that fronts on Downer. It runs all the way to Comain Road West, and there are houses that run south to north on the west side of Comain Road, and this parcel is snug in between. And despite the fact that Dead Creek is due west, the parcel is really not encroached by wetlands, either state or federal, and it's not in a floodplain. So it's very developable. Not particularly familiar with the topography, but I'm assuming it just all generally works its way down to a low point here. And town officials, in their wisdom years ago, figured something was going to be done here because they left an access point for a road.
Does it go along the river?
Does not. Well, that's, I don't know what you call it, it's a marsh. So there's about,
The throughways, the canal course flowage easement down there.
Say that again?
It's the canal's flowage easement down behind Carol Appleby's garage. That area back in there is a flowage easement.
By whose garage?
Carol Appleby.
Oh, okay.
That's the one at the base of Comain, before you get to the whole Vanderwater compound? Done that?
No,
way?
it's not in Harbor Heights. Is this by the old town highway barn?
Nope, this is the other side. This is coming off Comain Road.
Yeah, this
As
is
you go
right
down the hill,
behind
you
the
hang,
houses on
come to the
Comain.
stop sign, you hang a left.
Yeah,
And all the way down where it tees into,
a dirt road.
yep, there's a lone garage on the left side.
Oh, yeah, okay, oh,
Behind
okay.
that is the
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It's okay.
So how many acres is that right there?
I'm guessing that the two pieces combined may be about 20 acres.
So I'm confused by that because I know people who live on Comain Road West and they wanted to purchase the land across from them and it is completely like underwater. I'm surprised that there's no wetland designation
And
down there.
maybe This is Comain Road West, and it ends up in a T. And it runs into Comain Road, which this is the dirt in. I think at that intersection of Comain Road and Comain Road West, it becomes private again. So I think Comain Road West is a public road, but I think Comain Road, right about at your house and where your brother-in-law lives, going that way, that becomes a private road. And so it's not town maintained. They must have a community expense sharing program.
Yeah, because they wanted to have it maintained by the.
Yeah, I think they just pitch in together, but
So- So I think that there's land, some land in between where they could, the people on that Comain Road, but this, I've driven it a few times, walked it a little bit, not that
it's
way.
probably more toward Comain. Okay.
There would be as many as 3 access points to the property, one from the bottom, one from the side, and one from the top. But as far as the front goes, we'd be interested in some type of commercial or office use up in front.
And what does that front, where you're pointing at, is that along Downer Street 31?
It is.
Okay.
It's,
So there you'd want to do some office or retail there, and then everything behind it, residential housing?
it's not my line of business, but I can see some services that might be interesting. It's not a heavy traffic area because a lot of people are gone by the time they're at 690. But, you know, daycare center would be something that would be interesting.
Why wouldn't you do housing there?
Because we get more yield or more money out of commercial use.
Okay.
And it's kind of constrained. We're only talking about so many lots. If we didn't have a commercial user in mind before we created the site, we wouldn't do housing because we'd have nothing else we could do with it. And I would stage the projects where I did the Downer Street, the other piece first, and then we came to this one second. This one suffers from some visibility issues.
Sure.
The other one is right there, right on Downer, so it'd be very easy to generate interest.
So this right here would be some type of a commercial building and parking lot?
Probably 2 to 4 out parcels with access to the community behind it.
Okay. And so the community behind it would be homes?
Yes.
How many homes do you think that the thought process on putting in?
Haven't designed it. My goal for the entire site, 2 parcels, would have been somewhere around 90.
90 homes?
90 to 100 homes.
So I got another question. So you said that you did HOA over in Clay, the hamlet. And is that something that you intend to do in these two parcels?
Probably not.
No?
Because as much as they are desired by some of the people that move into the communities, they're a turnoff to other people. And when we do our communities, we want to have as broad an appeal to our market as possible. If anybody is turned off by the idea that they can't cut their own grass, then we would end up losing sales.
Okay, one more question. The homes that you're anticipating or thinking of building, what are the sizes and what are they a homes? Are they, are they a timber banks type?
Well, so all new homes are luxury homes these days.
Yeah, I know.
And my newest building lots have a retail value between $65,000 and $80,000 because that's just how much it costs to put a road in. And there's not even that much development profit when I'm talking about $65,000 to $85,000 lots. Oftentimes, the concept of developing the land is not only because we want to get some development profit out of the project, but we want the opportunity to build the homes. And the two profit centers together make it worth our while. If I just had to build the homes without the development profit, that we'd have to make sure we had a site that was fantastic. If I just did the development for the sake of the profit, it wouldn't be the most viable place to put my money. So we try to get both profit centers out of the project. I suspect because of the proximity to Downer, we're not going to be building $600,000, $700,000 homes up here. But I don't have any products now that I do under $400,000. And I've got a ranch that we're completing next week, about $400,000, 1,415 square feet. 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 14, and the same ranch is under construction in Radisson for $442,000.
Lauren, there you go. You can buy a new house.
1,415 square feet. So if I get a little prickly because people wonder, well, anything that we build here will probably be twice the value of any home that backs up to it currently.
Which will bring up the value of the rest of the homes.
It would be its own.
What's happening in places like Seneca Knoll is things under $200,000 are going through huge bidding wars because that's all some people can afford. And they're getting them because they can get them at that price. And then they're turning around and putting tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into the homes to get them the way they would like. Because they can't spend $400,000 or $500,000 on a new home. So why not get one for $150,000 and put another $75,000 into it and make it the way they want? There's a lot.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so you're talking, this is one idea and the other is another idea. You're not talking about doing both of them?
No, we would buy both pieces at the same time. We would we'd phase the development.
Okay, so you would plan on developing
yes.
both of those, okay.
We have both pieces under contract, one contract to purchase both, and then develop it over time. And then the amount of time it takes to develop is directly related to the market.
Right.
So, curious question, is Eldon Homes going to be buying these, or building these homes? There isn't going to be subcontractors that are going to be building them, and the homeowners will not be building them to suit?
So we prefer to build as many houses as we can. It's not uncommon for us to sell building lots to other home building companies, depending on the market conditions and how many we think we can build. So when we did the first Harbor Heights project, and it was such a massive project, there was so many home sites, quickly determined that Eldon Homes couldn't go through it at a pace that would make it profitable. So we signed a contract with Ryan Homes, and they went through at a very good pace. Now, I learned a hard lesson, because what they did is they turned around and bought the Sun Meadows project soon after we did our project, and they just cannibalized the two sites. So instead of going twice as fast at one, they had two, they split the sales, and they went slow at both. So that's why I would be very mindful of what's going on at the Creedville Farm. If I see that they're going in with the apartments first, then we'll want to go ahead and get our project going. If they are doing the single-family homes first and they're not doing the apartments, I can wait. I can wait until they get their single-family houses done. Their building franchise is build your own home, so they tend to sell the home sites to individuals who find their own builders.
I think that's what she was alluding to,
Yeah.
because we've had a lot of issues with homes down there that, well, enough said. I think you know.
It's,
Okay, that's, okay.
it's not our business model.
Just so I'm clear too, along my, what would be my left side of that, your right side, no, the other way, I'm sorry. That road, the road that's all the way to the edge of the map.
To the left-hand
I'm sorry.
side.
It's downer.
That's down.
Yeah.
Okay, and so heading upward would be going like to,
Route 31.
To the
That-
turn, to the turn.
Yeah, to the
turn.
flashing yellow
Okay,
light.
Gotcha,
I
okay.
can't remember the name of the street if you keep going straight.
It's,
Kingdom or something?
well, yeah, but it's,
West,
yeah, Dead Creek.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's left, I just want to make sure I was oriented right.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit, the undeveloped corner that you have there at the very top corner of the map, the stuff that's not on your property, I mean, to the left, to my left of that. Anyway, doesn't matter. That would be about where the highway barn is or the old highway barn, Dead Creek, or,
Yeah, I think probably
Dead Creek.
Up a little bit further. Those are,
You're across
what
the
you're
creek.
not seeing there are houses. People live in those. There's lots there.
Oh,
so
that's
when this
right.
comes out onto
Okay.
Downer Street, that parcel you're looking at on the left, is almost directly across from arrow fence.
Across from
Yeah,
where?
arrow
Arrow
fence.
fence.
Oh, okay.
And there are
gotcha.
houses across there, so that's
Okay.
what they're,
So then coming in from there is that whole area, so it's all the undeveloped stuff that's between Kamain and the river
yes.
housing areas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I want to ask you one other question, and these two issues aren't quite related, and that's lot size and density. Oftentimes, even if you gave me a smaller shaped lot, I can only get so many lots in the community because I still have to get a road through it, I have to put stormwater facilities in it. So sometimes what we do is we do a density study, and I say, if I used every inch of this property with R15, I could get 60 homes in here, or 50 homes. Having accomplished that, give me the 50 homes, but let me build them on smaller lots so I can build a more efficient shaped road and I can leave more green space around the properties, but I'm creating smaller home sites. Does that make sense? It allows us to cut down on the length of road. It allows us to preserve some green space. Some towns, and I don't know if your town has adopted Town Law 278, it's known as clustering. And
We have not.
We have not.
So you do not have that?
No.
So it's clustering reg, which says, okay, the zoning determines the density, but if you cluster, we'll let you manipulate the shapes of your lots, which is exactly what we did when we did Harper Heights before, but instead of clustering, we just got a PUD.
And that's how the town's addressed this in the past, without the clustering, is gone the PUD way and had variable lot sizes and widths and things within, like Marion Meadows right here.
So at this point, any other questions? You've heard Wendy's, you've heard my comments personally. So again, it still would go to the town planning board, who would give us, I mean, you've spoken to both the chair and vice chair, I think, or,
Yeah, but I'm not leaving here today with any sentiment other than R40 from two of the board members, because there's money involved in getting a landscape architect involved, getting a surveyor involved, getting an engineer involved. Not only do we have to lay out, you know, what we did very simply with the road is easy enough, but we got to figure out topography, involves getting a survey done, getting a boundary survey done, you know, that's $8,000. Figuring out where the stormwater basin's going to go on the property, not worth my time and energy if R15 is going to happen. If it's stuck being R40, we're like, you know what, we'll option it forever and just hold on to the piece until.
Well, I'll say, my opinion is I wouldn't have a problem with R15, not R10. That's, to me, that's just a little bit too small for lots. I understand that there has to be development, that there's gonna be development, and I understand that you have it's your money that you're putting up with all this. So I get that 100%. So I would be in favor right now of making it an R15.
The homes to the north, the houses that they back up to, literally the lot lines are extensions of what's already there. So our thought was that this piece right here, whatever you're backing up to is exactly the same lot that they already have. So for them to object would be like, hey, wait a minute, we're just giving the developer exactly what you have.
Well, they're going to object because they have woods behind them right now. And
You mean the owner of
the owners
property,
on
that's
land,
what's fine.
yeah, they're going to object. It's going to be a hard sell to the people that live, this particular portion, I think of it, I think would be a hard sell to the residents that live right there. The other section, I don't think that would be a really hard sell. Because it
I thought
is,
that would be the harder sell, because though there's so many houses down Comaine there, their real world would really feel like it's disrupted once those trees start to come down.
yeah.
Where this is kind of, you know, they're already up toward the front of the neighborhood, but.
I think everyone will have an issue with it. But like Mike said, development has to come.
yeah, it has to happen. We all know that, number one, the governor's mandates and all the micron, I'm not going to keep throwing, everybody says micron, like it's a magic word. It's going to happen. I understand that.
But I don't think 400,000 falls under affordable housing.
Well, no, it
So,
certainly doesn't fall under, well.
I don't know about that.
I don't know what affordable housing is considered nowadays.
I don't know what she thinks we can accomplish. I don't have a magic wand,
Yeah.
you know, and not to mention the fact, both of the projects, this one and the Salina project, we're contemplating not bringing natural gas into the neighborhood. So I got the additional challenge of selling houses without natural gas.
That's ridiculous.
January 1, 2025, if the law passes, if a law is created that mirrors what came out of the state's Climate Action Council. So there's some lobbying going on to try to extend those, but
Well, I think at this point, it would be us, based on what we have said, to turn it back over to the planning board to give you a better idea. So,
Thank you, Dan.
I'm going to be making a lot of noise when I break this down. I'll just sit back there until you finish your meeting. You got a lot of meeting left?
well,
No.
okay. Moving on to councilor committee reports. Howard,
Nothing at this time.
Jenny,
I have nothing at this time, but wanted to welcome Bob Grover to the board.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Mike,
Just welcome, Bob.
Wendy,
Nothing.
welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
Let's see, okay. I have no additional comments tonight. No one here from Highway. Jason, you have a couple of updates for us.
Yep, Connors Road, they put the detour in place today for our culvert replacement project, so you can't get across Connors Road between Canton and Van Buren. You have to go up to Turner and down North Brickyard.
Or Ellsworth, what I did today.
That's not the way the detour is set up. But yes, that is an option. Was there something else I was supposed to cover?
Yes, the bid for the pavilion.
Right, I'm working with a pavilion contractor right now about getting plans together that are biddable for what our Parks Department's looking for their new pavilion. And we're hoping to put that out to bid here in the next couple of weeks.
Because that has to be built before the end of July this year.
I believe that's
June or July. No, June, because she's planning on booking it as of July 1. Yeah, that's what the state grant was.
Okay.
So, okay. No attorney? Lynn, anything? Okay, can I get a motion, please, to adjourn to the regular board meeting on March 15th at 7 PM?
No motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for coming.